So today I wanted to do a case study because I feel like for me, I'm kind of a learn by doing type of person, and it's easier for me personally, and I think maybe for other people too, to see a specific example and then be able to act accordingly. And we can kind of talk about the goods and the bads and all of that great stuff. So I'm going to show you this property that I have listed over in Paso Robles right now. It is 1247 Lana in Paso Robles. So I actually bought this property through my LLC from a seller who was older and wanting to move back with his children, which were in like the LA area. So he didn't want to go through any inspections or anything like that. He just really wanted to sell it for cash. He didn't want to go through showings. I mean, it was in really bad condition too. So, somebody referred me to them and I was able to secure the property for a pretty great deal. I honestly can't remember what the amount was right now, but it was a win-win for everybody. So we were able to close on the property and we originally had a rehab budget of $80,000. We've had some hiccups in the construction situation, just with contractor issues, not really um, anything other than that, honestly. But also, we had to decide which direction to go in because they had converted the garage into another unit. And it was a question of, hey, are we going to keep this converted like this? Are we going to, make it part of the main house and make it a four-bedroom? Which direction would be better for the end consumer? And ultimately, we decided that we were going to keep it as what they call a junior ADU. So it's just an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit, which is actually attached to the house still. So once we decided we are going to go ahead and do the two units, that at least gave us this trajectory to go into it. But it also increased our budget from $80,000 to $120,000, which is extra $40,000. Now, I did do my research and I thought for sure that the difference in value of having a four-bedroom unit versus a three-bedroom unit with an ADU would fully make up for that $40,000 spread, but time will tell once we get an offer in. So originally, I had thought it would be 6 weeks, but honestly, here on the Central Coast, we have this thing called the Mid-State Fair, which all of my contractors worked at, and so it really put us back at least 2 weeks. So we ended up completing the rehab in 9 weeks, and it was $122,000. So $2,000 more than I thought, but that's pretty good. And then we were able to get it on the market. And we priced it at 763,900, and I'm going to show you why that worked. Now we know the difference in the payment with a house that has a junior ADU and one that does not. Now, in my mind, there are two different options. You can either rent out the main house or you can rent out the little studio. It's actually a one-bedroom unit. So the one-bedroom unit would probably rent out for, I'm gonna call it 1750, maybe 1800. So we're actually ahead $1,400 a month versus the house that doesn't have the junior ADU. Now, let's say we wanted to rent out that main house, which so it's a three-bedroom, two bath, and then we live in the one bedroom, one bath, then we that's probably 2850, $2,900 a month in rental income, which is an additional $2,500 in income versus just the typical house that, we're going to buy for $710,000. So that's why it ends up making a lot of sense. It gives you options. What I like about it too, at this specific house is that the junior ADU has its own air conditioning and heating system, so that's autonomous. This house has solar, which is leased, but that's a huge savings. But on top of just having the actual income, there are so many tax benefits that we can talk about another time, or you can give me a call and I'm happy to walk you through them. But for me, if I'm buying a house in California or really anywhere, I'm going to look for something that either has another unit already or has the ability to add another unit. But if it's my first place, it's having something already intact there is so much easier. Building is difficult, at least here in California, and I know in Florida, and I know in Alabama and Tennessee, because those are the ones that I kind of work within. But building is difficult, and that's kind of like a phase two in terms of being an investor and a buyer and that kind of thing. So if it were me and I'm buying my first house or my second house, I'm gonna always look for something that has a second unit to give me options. Okay, so for all of my projects that I do and my listings, I have this running spreadsheet, which is like a keep versus sell kind of spreadsheet. So it'll show you your opportunity cost to sell the property versus keeping it because of appreciation. So I'm going to share this with you guys. Separate unit. This is the separate entrance for the separate unit, which is awesome. Here it is. You got a one bedroom here. This is where the refrigerator goes. This is actually a microwave oven, and it has a hot plate on top of it. Then you have a full bath, which is so, so cute. You can see in the pictures. Here's a separate little patio area just for this unit. This is the HVAC, so that unit has its own HVAC. That's the main house. But you can tell that it is completely autonomous. There's plenty of parking. It's a win-win deal here. Not to mention that you are then now appreciating at the higher price point. So let's say you purchased the property for 700 versus, 760. Now your appreciation, let's say it's 3% every year, you're appreciating it on 700,000 versus you're appreciating 3% a year on $760,000. And we can just do the quick math and figure what that is in one moment. So whenever I'm taking on a new property, I always use this spreadsheet. It's not like complicated or fancy or anything. It's just something that I've made up over the years to show myself, do I want to keep this property? Is it a good deal? Does it make sense? What does it look like in 5 years? I think just being intentional about where you're going on your real estate journey and your investing journey, it just being intentional about your financial life is really important. And it's really simple to just look and see, hey, what's gonna happen with this equity, with this cash flow in the next, 5 to 10 years, just based on historical trends. So I will share my screen with you so you can see what I'm looking at. Okay, so you can see here, we're going in year one for $760,000. Um, this would be your equity after you close. So, like, whatever your down payment was, plus if you had a great deal or whatever. And here's your cash flow, is what I call it. Some people call it passive income. Really, in the beginning, I'm basing this off of that mortgage number that we had previously, plus any rents. So I'm thinking the main house is going to rent for 3,000, and that junior ADU is renting for 1,700 or so. So here's my cash flow. Now, how I have projected the cash flow going forward is to base our rents on a 5% increase. And I usually don't do that the first year. I usually start on the third year. But all the while, the greatest thing about real estate is our mortgage is staying the same. It's always going to be $4,500. Now, our rents are going up. Now, you can see by the time you're at year 5, your rents are at $6,300. And 10, you're at $10,000, $11,000. Now, once you get into year 10, you're making $6,000 a month. Now, we're not even talking about how much money the tenants are paying down your mortgage, because every month they're paying your mortgage. You're not paying it. So you're grabbing that equity there as well. So let's call it 15 years from now. First of all, you've got a property that's worth, 1.7 million bucks according to this. I don't know, we'll see. Just based on historical trends. And then your cash flow is like $10,000 to $12,000. That's pretty cool, in California with one property that you started with that you could get in to as little as 3.5, 5% down. That's the power of real estate, and that's why I love it, especially if you're super intentional and you're looking with an eye for investing. So I love it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna summarize the whole thing for you and kind of show you the power of real estate and why I love it so much. I also love math and I'm a huge nerd. So use that for your good. I just used that spreadsheet that I just showed you, and these are the numbers that I came up with. So you can see based on a 5% appreciation rate in both value and in rents, this is what we get to. So in 3 years, you've already made $75,000, which is $25,000 a year, which is $2,000 approximately a month. Add that to your $650 in actual cash flow, and you can see it just starts this snowball effect. And if you go to year 15, you're at $750,000 extra in net worth and $11,000 a month. And if you've had this thing rented out the entire time, you've literally paid only that initial amount of money, and you can, whenever you want, year 3, year 5, year 15, go in and do a cash out refi and or do an equity line of credit and pull out that initial, $100,000 or whatever it is. You could, again, you can do 3.5% down. So there is a low barrier to entry for your first purchase. Um, but this is the power. Like, if you're making $11,000 a month, like, that's insane, and that's your retirement. That's the cool thing. Let's say you only want to own 2, 3 properties. That's $33,000 a month in cash flow that you can have along with the retirement that, your employer supplies or whatever. But just being intentional about what you purchase and when you purchase it and making sure that there's, different incomes to offset if there's a vacancy or anything like that, just makes real estate a no-brainer to me to add to your portfolio or to add to your life. So you can see I'm just a fan. I'm a fan of real estate. Number one fan. That should be like my YouTube name or something. Number one real estate fan. I just think that it gives people, especially in our country, we're so lucky that we have opportunities like this, that we can better ourselves and better our situations. And maybe it means that you can work at something that you're really passionate about and you don't have to worry about money in that way. But the cool thing about math and in real estate and investing and all this stuff, it allows you to be intentional and engineer your life. So if we can think about the end in mind, and then reverse engineer into it, we can come up with this solid plan, whether it be a 3 year, 5 year, 10-year plan, whatever. I'm obviously a planner. Um, you can achieve those goals pretty easily and with pretty low stress. Or you can like really charge it and be like, hey, I want to make $20,000 a month. I want to make $50,000, whatever it is, sky's the limit. And that's the cool thing. And I think the goals are like ever changing. I know the things that I wanted when I was 21 or when I was 30 or when I didn't have kids or now that I do, or they're always changing. And I think that that's okay too. And, that's why I like to have quarterly goals, yearly goals, 3, 5 years, and then just reassess all the time of like, hey, is this what I still want or whatever. But ultimately, financially, real estate's just such a great avenue to get to a place where you're um not beholden to making money every month, that you can do the things that you love to do. Maybe it's that you're working part-time so you can hike more, or you love the beach so you want, to be a lifeguard or whatever, but they only make $30,000 a year. So how are you going to live in California? It's just this solution that we can, again, reverse engineer into anything that your heart desires. So if you're excited like I am, or you have more interest, or you want to come up with a plan, then yeah, I am always available to talk, and I love real estate. Okay, talk to you soon.